Well, good evening, everybody. This is Sarfaraz Khan. I am an Ielts instructor in Pakistan, and I have been teaching Ielts since 2012. And today it's my first video cast for you. And today we all are going to talk about the Ielts academic reading. My basic focus would be on academic readings. Okay, so let's get started without wasting the time. So as you know that the IELTS reading is consisted of three segments: IELTS reading part 1, part 2 and part 3. Generally, when the students go into the examination and sit over there and start taking the test, so they are unable, it has been seen so many times that they are entirely unable to manage that 60 minutes of time altogether, because they have been usually found to complain about IELTS reading part 3. So IELTS reading part 3 is like not at all an uphill task for you. If you would manage your time properly, you will be able to obviously and successfully do it in a very relaxing way. So the pattern would be that whenever you are supposed to take your IELTS examination, and especially I'm talking about, again I should say that I'm talking about IELTS academic, because academics students suffers a lot. I shouldn't have used this word suffer, but right now I have to say this. Okay, so first you have to attempt part 1, IELTS reading part 1, and then part 3, because part 1 carries a nominal paragraph, you can say that, right? A mediocre paragraph. And then part 2 is a little bit bigger than part 1, and part 3 is the biggest one. So in order to manage the time, I would rather say do part 1 first and then directly jump toward part 3 and then come to part 2, because part 1 reading is going to give you a very good startup, a very good warm up. So, right, when after doing that, you can when you would switch to part 3, so it is you will be quite relaxed, because you had encountered some of the materials in part 1, so you would be mentally relaxed and you can easily uh, like identify all the problems and identify all the technicalities in reading part 3. And when you would come to part 2, obviously it will be quite easier for you. Okay, so as you know that there are 40 questions, and all the questions are absolutely mandatory to attempt. There you cannot obviously leave any questions. So let me show you one thing here, that the scores are basically the problem here. So if you talk about the scores, you can calculate your bands of the reading, especially here. So as I told you that there are 40 questions, right? So 40 questions, in 40 questions, if your answers out of 40 is 16 to 17, God forbid, 16 to 17 answers are only right, so you got 5 bands. And this is all about 5.5, 23 to 25 is 6 bands, 26 to 29 is 6.5 bands, and so on. In the last 39 and 40 carries 9 bands, and at least 35 and 38 means 8 bands. There is no 8.5 over here, unfortunately. Okay, so coming back to the video here. So second thing is that what should make your reading faster, what should make your reading easier, and what should make your reading quite interactive and enjoying, right? So the thing is that students, the practice, practice and practice, this is the only thing, right? No matter how much, how great you are in your English language, how great you are in vocabulary, how great you are in grammar, keep all of them aside. Practice is the most important thing, because the questions over there in the IELTS segments, the reading segments, they are quite tacky, and they never asked you the direct questions. They usually use the synonyms either in the questions or in the answers. They always ask you the questions in an indirect manner, and it is quite sometimes becomes very difficult to understand them, right? So this is what you have to be very much careful about. And as far as the grammar is concerned, so you need to have some handy grammars, like basic grammars like tenses, simple present tense, simple past tense, Okay, and present, the difference between present perfect and like simple past tense, it's quite important to know about it because there are so many questions. Sometimes they trap you in the situations between simple past and present perfect. Okay, and then like past perfect tense and past perfect progressive tense. These are some of the tenses, and after that you have to focus on active passive and direct indirect. In other words, we call them narrations. Okay, so if you would practice them properly, so it will become quite easier for you to understand most of the segments. Even your writing would become quite easier for you. Right now, the main part is basically the vocabulary. You should be very much, I repeat, you should be very much well, like pretty much confident. You must be confident enough to like understand certain vocabularies, certain academic vocabularies. Okay, if I talk about the word latest, so latest has another word known as contemporary. So the IELTS is going to use the word contemporary, and if you do not know that, it's not an IELTS fault, because IELTS is taking it as a normal word. For the IELTS, it's a normal word, but for you and me, it can be a difficult word, but we have to work on it. We have to improve our vocabulary in this sense. I'm not talking about technical vocabularies. I'm not talking about any terminological vocabularies of chemistry, physics, mathematics, or any other psychology topics. No, never. Right? So these are the things that you have to be very much careful. I don't have that much time to tell you in detail. Well, it's a huge topic, but we have to discuss it in like obviously in a detailed manner. But I'm just telling you some of the like highlights here, right? The next important thing, if you are an academic student and taking an academic IELTS test, remember one thing, the topics of the readings are really, really, really difficult. Let me show you some of the topics here. Right, so here you can see a return of an artificial intelligence. Obviously, if you have no idea about the artificial intelligence, obviously you are gonna suffer it a lot, right? AI, what we call it, we use it in most of our mobile technology nowadays. Okay, so some of the I'm just showing you the topics here. Okay, so this is like they have got so many scientific topics. They focus most on scientific topics and the psychological topics. Okay, so let me like discuss first the scientific topics, some of the scientific topics. The scientific topics, the return of the artificial intelligence is there, right? And then we have got the coral reef of Agari Island. So they have discussed so many so many social behaviors and so many changes related to some of the coral reefs, that is an underwater sea plant. So they have talked about that, and they also have talked about a lot of fish and fishing activities done in this island. So if you have no idea about what is coral reef, obviously you're gonna suffer, but it's not the IELTS fault. IELTS knows that you should know about it. Being a student, what is coral reef? Maybe it's for you and for me, it can be a difficult word, but not for the IELTS department. Okay, so coral reef of Agari Island. So it's not important to know about the Agari Island. They're going to let you know about it, but the coral reef is the most important thing here. The next thing that we have is here the bakelite. The bakelite, obviously, it's a terminological name, and they have, whenever you would have any sort of terminological words like that, so they always and always and always make you understand in the very first paragraph. It is mandatory. Okay, it is confirmed. You should not be like worried about it. Okay, well, I don't know anything about bakelite, so what would I do about it? No, it's not at all possible. They are going to let you know about it. Okay, and some of the psychological topic over there, like we have got early childhood education. All the psychology related to the child education is they're going to discuss in this this chapter, in this like segment. Okay, we have got nurture and nature. Obviously, you should know the vocabulary of nurture and nature is quite important. Okay, for you and me it can be difficult, but for the IELTS, not at all. Okay, and like we have got other, as I told you about artificial intelligence, scientific topics and other things. There are so many topics like that, but obviously we cannot discuss all of them over here. Okay, so these are some of the segment that I had like discussed in this video. So if you would be having any sort of queries, you can ask me in my comment section. You can ask me in my through my email, right? So I will be more than glad to help you out. So hope you might have received some of the informative information. Quite like this session could have been a bit informative to you related to the IELTS reading. But remember, one last thing that I would definitely let you know, just again, I want to remind you that please improve your vocabulary. And how to improve it? The best way to improve your vocabulary is the newspaper, the English newspaper, right? So read the newspaper, improve your vocabulary, read your like favorite topics, whatever the topics in politics, in fashion, in comic sections, in business, and sports, whatever you like, read them. Improve your vocabularies, okay? And last but not the least, whenever you are planning to take the IELTS test, do not do not even start preparing like few months before, right? You minimum you should have, minimum, I repeat, minimum you should have 6 months before the test when you start preparing for the IELTS. So you should have minimum 6 months. More than that is recommendable, obviously, but minimum 6 months. It is very important. And whenever you are planning to take it, so give most of your time in practicing IELTS reading, because reading is the mother of all the other segments like listening, like speaking, like writing, because reading is having a direct impact on your speaking and writing. Remember that. So you cannot, once you start preparing for the IELTS, so never stop practicing the reading part. It is very important, right? So hope everybody have might have, like, I shouldn't, you should have used the word have, but everybody might have received something, some good things, some informative things related to the IELTS reading. So wait for my next video, and soon I am going to have a live sessions with all of you guys and answer all of your queries as well. So till then, thank you so much for watching. Thank you. Well, good evening.